That's going to be hard.
All right, well.
I'll say nothing.
Why do you think he lost?
I think they had a better ground game, and I think we were not aware. You know, we certainly had the passion coming from our side, and I don't think we were as aware of the passion that was coming from the other side. I think we were a little blindsided by that.
Do you think that the two of you at all contributed to this image, which the other side certainly played up, that you were so wealthy, that you were somehow out of touch with the concerns of the average American?
And you know, that's a reality that, you know, you can't change. I mean, we are who we are. The thing that was frustrating to me is that people didn't really get to know Mitt for who he was.
Well, I want to pick up on that because there were reports that you and your oldest son, Tag, were frustrated with the Romney campaign, that they didn't, quote, let Mitt be Mitt, that they didn't let him show his more open, compassionate side. True?
Well, of course, it was partly, it's true, but it was not just the campaign's fault. I believe it was the media's fault as well, is that he was not being given a fair shake, that people weren't allowed to really see him for who he was.
All right, what about the media?
I'm happy to blame the media.
Do you think the media was in the tank for Barack Obama?
I think that it's anytime you're running for office, you always think that you're being portrayed unfairly. And, you know, we, of course, on our side believe that there's more bias in favor of the other side. I think that, you know, that's a pretty universally felt opinion.
What do you think of the campaign that Barack Obama ran?
I think, obviously, it was a winning campaign. It worked.
Do you think it was fair?
No.
In what way?
Portrayal of my husband. You know, he is an exceptional, wonderful person.
She's not biased at all.
I'm not biased. And, you know, and he really is a selfless person that really, truly cared about the American people. He truly cares about making a difference and about helping others. And for him to be portrayed in a very negative light, in another way, was very hard. He has enormous skill sets in dealing with difficult issues, and I totally believe at this moment, if Mitt were there in the office, that we would not be facing sequestration right now.
So what is your life like now? What are you doing? How do you spend your days? Governor, now you can talk.
My turn.
Yes, again.
We've renamed our foundation, the Romney Foundation for Children. We're going to help the very poorest kids in the world. We're going to help kids in this country with disease and great difficulty. And that's taking more and more of our time. We got a chance to spend more time with the grandkids. We just had twins born, as you know, and being with them was a thrill.
I have to clear up a couple of rumors. Were you both dancing with this guy?
I was.
Although the president did, he bought all kinds of land and had big projects. The year after he was elected the first time, they had the Department of Agriculture out there buying land. Then they approved the houses. They built houses. The houses were all done and ready to go, be moved into by July. They didn't let anybody move into them until after November.
Did the Republican Party approach you about running for John Kerry's
Break 834 JevaJess.com.
I'm sure, no, they didn't approach me. I think there was a
Of course, only selected immigrants can move in there.
If anyone wanted to consider,
Wonder if they all belong to the same gang that they let out of jail.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. I'm enjoying life.
Tell us about the grandchildren and your involvement with them.
We're looking past it. It's our life.
I think Chloe can. I mean, it's virtually every day. We see the one grandchild or another every day.
Every day.
We took them to Disneyland. We took them snow skiing, and then our sons Matt and Craig live close to an open space area. We throw the ball for the dogs. We play sports with the kids. They like kicking balls, hitting baseballs. You know, we do the things that grandparents are expected to do with grandkids.
Looking back and now, how do you both feel about what you've been through and where you are now?
I wish everyone could have just been in our pockets, gone with us, and seen what we had seen. And what
Run
you
that flash-
see when you see
man.
that are the heart of the American people. I leave,
Run a flash media server, too.
discouraged by the outcome of the election, but also optimistic about America, and because of the people that live here. It's an amazing place.
Governor?
It was an exciting, thrilling experience. And it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but the experience itself was magnificent. Were there tough days? Absolutely. Were there exhilarating days? Yeah, even more of them. And so I kind of, one of the great life experiences. Anybody would say, can you imagine anything more fantastic than being able to run for President of the United States? And to see
one
it-
thing more expensive.
well, winning, yes, winning. But 2 years, and we've done it twice, 2 years of really seeing the American people. It's a great, thrilling experience of a lifetime that we will obviously cherish throughout our lifetime.
When we come back, we'll ask Mitt Romney about his frustration as he sees Washington trapped in fiscal gridlock. And he talks more openly than he ever has about why he thinks he lost the presidency.
How can power consumption in China impact wool exports from New Zealand, textile production in Spain, and the use of medical technology in the U.S.? At T. Rowe Price, we understand the connections of a complex global economy. It's just one reason over 75% of our mutual funds beat their 10-year Lipper average. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. Request a prospectus or summary prospectus with investment information, risks, fees, and expenses to read and consider carefully before investing.
2 years ago, the people of BP made a commitment to the goal, and every day since, we've worked hard to keep it. BP has paid over $23 billion to help people and businesses who were affected and to cover cleanup costs. Today, the beaches and Gulf are open for everyone to enjoy, and many areas are reporting the best tourism seasons in years. We've shared what we've learned with governments and across the industry so we can all produce energy more safely. I want you to know there's another commitment BP takes just as seriously, our commitment to America. BP supports nearly 250,000 jobs in communities across the country. We hired 3,000 people just last year. BP invests more in America than in any other country. In fact, over the last 5 years, no other energy company has invested more in the U.S. than BP. We're working to fuel America for generations to come. Today, our commitment to the Gulf and to America has never been stronger.
I've always had to keep my eye on her, but I didn't always watch out for myself. With so much noise about healthcare, I tuned it all out. With United Healthcare, I get information that matters. My individual health profile, not random statistics. They even reward me for addressing my health risks. So, I'm doing fine. But she's still gonna give me a heart attack.
We're more than 78,000 people looking out for more than 70 million Americans. That's health in numbers. United Healthcare.
America, it's finally your turn to rock the Idol Road. The three-night event begins Tuesday when the remaining girls take the stage.
You're such a natural-born singer.
Then on Wednesday, it's the boys' turn to impress you.
You are a super-duper star.
And on Thursday, your votes are in and your top 10 are revealed.
We have finally hit the big time.
Whatever you do, don't miss the American Idol three-night event beginning Tuesday on Fox.
After our interview with both Romneys, we sat down alone with the governor. We talked about the campaign and how President Obama has dealt with the nation's problems since his re-election. But we started with why anyone should listen to Mitt Romney. Before we get to current events, what role do you see for yourself? What part do you want to play in the Republican Party? What role do you want to have in the national debate?
Well, I recognize that I lost, so I'm not going to be the leader of the Republican Party. Other people will take that mantle. But I want to have influence on getting our party to a position where we can be successful in solving the problems the country has.
You must know that there are a lot of people in the party who still blame you for losing a race they think that the Republicans could have won in 2012. To a certain degree, when you hear about the rebranding, aren't people saying they want to distance the party from you?
Well, I recognize that as the guy who lost
He didn't set
the
up
election,
servers,
I'm not in a
like I
position to tell
said.
everybody
I even
else
wrote
not
him an
to win,
email.
all right? They're not going to listen, and I don't have the credibility to do
So
that
we should
anyway.
set
But I
up
still
game
care.
servers.
And I still believe that there are principles that
Didn't
we
listen to me.
stand for. You know, look at what's happening right now. I wish I were there. It kills me not to be there, not to be in the White House doing what needs to be done. The president is the leader of the nation. The president brings people together, does the
Breaking 3, 4, TimmyJess.com. Don't let him collect
and I
the
don't
money.
see that kind of leadership happening
What
right
is this
now.
president doing?
Well, his campaign, he's the only one that can say to his own party, look, you guys, I need you on this, and get some Republicans aside and say, pull them off one by one. We don't have to have these gridlock settings, one after the other, on issue after issue. And it's going to take real leadership and people in both parties willing to put aside political victories and start fighting for national victories.
So let me ask you specifically, how do you think the president has handled the sequester, the $85 billion?
And it's not a good guideline.
Well, no one can think that that's been a success for the president. He didn't think the sequester would happen. It is happening. To date, what we've seen is the president out campaigning to the American people, doing rallies around the country, flying around the country,
So you're
and
second
berating
guessing
Republicans and blaming and pointing. Now, what does that do? That causes the Republicans to
I think that
retrench
you're second
and
guessing.
to put up a wall and to fight back. It's a very natural human emotion.
Wrong.
You know, when I was elected governor of my state, I had a legislature 87% Democrat.
Number one,
It was
I
not
think
lost
you
on me
fully
to get
expected the
anything done.
sequester to go in.
I couldn't be attacking them. I had to find ways to reach out to them. The president has the opportunity to lead the nation and to bring Republicans and Democrats together. It's a job he's got to do, and
You're
it's a job
second guessing is
only
all.
the president can do.
During the last presidential debate, you brought up the effect that the sequester would have on the military. And the president said,
The sequester is not something that I proposed, it's something that Congress has proposed. It will not happen.
your thoughts now?
Yeah, wrong on two fronts. There should be a deal done here, and it should be not just solving the short-term sequester issue, but dealing with the long-term fiscal challenge that America has. This is an opportunity. I look at this sequester and also the expiration of the Bush tax
His
cuts
motives are
as an
not what
almost
you're
once-in-generational
taking for
opportunity
granted.
for America to solve its fiscal problems. If we do
The
that, we
motives
can
of
become
that
more
organization is not
competitive globally, and America
what
can
you're
lead
taking
the
for
world in the
granted.
coming century. I mean, I see this as this huge opportunity, and it's being squandered by politics, by
Now,
people who are more interested in a political
the
victory
people
than they are
that
in doing what's
are
right for
on
the country.
that
And it's
side
very
of the
frustrating. I have to
motive
tell you, the hardest thing
I
about
think he's
losing
great.
is watching this critical moment, this golden moment, just slip away with politics.
The Obama administration is right now releasing hundreds of illegal immigrants who have been slated for deportation because they say they can't afford to hold them.
That's why you're a Boy
What do you think of
Scout.
that?
I think the president has to act in the interest of the country. And that means if we need
But
an
see,
aircraft carrier
his
in
motive
the
for
Gulf,
being
I believe
president
we
isn't
do. I
the
thought we
interest
should
of
want
the
more,
country.
that he should do it. I think if there are people who are
It's a
incarcerated,
loyalty issue.
he should make sure that
And you're
that we're
taking
able to
it
keep
for
them
granted
in jail.
that
Using
he's 100%
the sequester as an
loyal to the
excuse
United
is,
States
in
of
my
America.
opinion, the wrong way to go. Look, it's again.
When instead, his
it's
real
politics.
motivation
It's, okay, how do we
is
do something
the
that will get a
world
headline that will make it look like those terrible Republicans aren't willing to come together? I understand from Paul Ryan, I spoke with him just a day or two ago, that he's put forward a proposal to give the president flexibility in moving that money between accounts. So we're going to bring the spending down, but we're, you're going to give
totally
the
off
president the chance
the whole
to make
thing.
sure that we don't have long lines at the airport, or we don't.
The president says he doesn't want that flexibility.
And why? Why would you not want to have the flexibility to do what you think is right for the country? The only answer that comes back is more interested in showing pain and saying,
Probably
"See what
because
you
his
guys
motive
did."
isn't to do
This is
right
the
by the
country.
country.
And
His
it's-
motive is to do right by the
this
world.
is America we're talking about at a critical time, and Nero is
There you
fiddling. I mean, it's come on, guys, focus on getting America through a difficult time and on the track to remain the most powerful and strong nation in the history of the earth, and put people back to work.
The one issue in Washington where the president and Republicans seem to be coming together is immigration
He knew
reform.
he's
And one big reason
going to
everybody
run up to
agrees
somebody and say,
is
"You're
the president
fired."
hammered you and Hispanic voters.
90,000
Did you make
He
a
made the
political
cut.
mistake in the campaign when you talked about self-deportation transportation.
They weren't
and what do you
arbitrary
think of
cuts.
the idea
They
that
were
the
cuts
candidate
made
in the Senate is
specifically
coming up
by
with
the
that
Obama
would allow the
administration
11 million
in the original deal
a provisional
last year.
status, basically a legal status in this country, even before any increase in enforcement.
People who have come here illegally should not be given a special pathway to permanent residency or citizenship in this country merely because they've come here illegally. So I have that position, but I understand others have different positions.
So we
Others in
should
my party.
proceed with the de facto
And to
amnesty.
finally resolve this issue is
That
going to
is what we've been
require
going through
people of
for
differing views to come together and see
50, 60
if there could be some compromise or some common ground.
and raise the amount
I
of
hope
people
that
that can be
happens. I
naturalized.
believe that will happen.
This brings me to
And
the
give block
campaign,
grant
and I
to
want to ask you
the
about
courts.
several issues and what role you
Give
think they
control
played
over
in
the
your
immigrants
defeat.
to the
It would be
state.
nice if Governor Romney would exercise leadership on his former staff and his major donors to take falsehoods off the air.
Did the long, bitter primary fight force you to move further to the right and end up hurting you in the general election?
The idea that somehow the primary made me become more conservative than I was just isn't accurate. On the other hand, a long and blistering primary where people are attacking one another and where the attacks sometimes are not on the mark but are creating an unfavorable impression, those things are not helpful. And some of the debates, for instance, you get asked questions that are kind of silly that end up hurting you in the general. So remember the famous question, if you could get $10 of cost savings with only $1 tax increase, would you go along with that?
When you raise your hand, if you feel so strongly about not raising taxes, you'd walk away on the 10-to-1 deal.
But no, that's a good question. Why not be the one who stands up there, raises your hand and said, of course, if it was 10 for 1, I'd do it?
Again, because if you said that you're not going to raise taxes, then they'd say Romney's changed his position. He said he wouldn't raise taxes. Now he's saying he will. He's changed his position.
But you would have accepted $10 in spending cuts for $1 in revenue.
Yeah, that's a fairy tale because no one is going to give you $10 in spending cuts for $1 in revenue increase. You got to, if you're going into a negotiation, you got to stand for your position, know they're going to stand for theirs, and then recognize that there's going to be some compromise.
The 47% video.
There are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they're victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them.
George Will said, you got a problem when voters don't like you. You got a real problem when voters think you don't like them.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate statement that I made. It's not what I meant. I didn't express myself as I wished I would have. When you speak in private, you don't spend as much time thinking about how something could be twisted and distorted and could come out wrong and be used. But, I did, and it was very harmful. What I said is not what I believe. Obviously, my whole campaign, my whole life has been devoted to helping people, all the people. I care about all the people in the country.
Romney says he was speaking in private.
And did real damage to my campaign.
How in the world can you think you're speaking in private when you're on a campaign trail?
Chris Christie, the New Jersey governor's embrace.
Lost 2 in a row.
Figuratively of President Obama.
Your second guessing of Obama was wrong.
I don't think that's why the president won the election. My campaign
Boy Scout.
had to stop. We're in the last week, and this was the time we were hammer on this to get to stop.
How in the world can you think that you're going to speak in private when you're on a campaign trail?
A little less effusive in his support of Obama, which made him seem more presidential.
I'm not going to worry about how Chris was.
Breaking 3-4, JeffAtJeff.com.
I lost my election because of my campaign, not because of anyone else. Looking back, how do you judge yourself in the presidential? Well, I see my mistakes and I see my flaws.
It would be good advice for somebody that's on the campaign trail to take a lesson from Walking Martin Childs. Even though he was Democrat, he was walking down the highway. Anybody wanted to talk to him, come up and talk to him. He didn't think he was speaking in private on the campaign trail.
And that was a failing.
Humorous.
That was a real mistake. Why do you think that was? Well, I think the Obamacare attractiveness and feature was something we underestimated, particularly among lower incomes. And we just didn't do as good a job at connecting with that audience as we should have.
What does the Republican Party need to do to reach out and attract more voters?
Well, first of all, I lost, and so I'm not going to be telling the Republican Party, come listen to me. The guy who lost is going to tell you.
You must have some ideas.
But of course, but among those ideas, clearly, we have to do a better job bringing minority voters in to vote for Republicans. And that's Hispanic Americans, African Americans, other minorities. We've got to do a better job taking our message to them to help them understand why we're the party with the ideas that will make their life better.
Finally, this interview, in a sense, is your return to the national stage. After everything you've been through, why do you want to get back in the game?
Well, I'm not going to disappear. I'm not running for office. I don't have a big organization that's out speaking in my behalf, but I care about America. I care about the people that can't find jobs. I care about the fact that we're racking up larger deficits and putting the peril of the future generation very much in play. I really care about this country. I care about my 20 grandkids, the kind of America they're going to have. And sitting on the sidelines when so much is at stake is just not in my nature.
Governor, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be with you.
Later in the show, the Romneys introduce us to the latest additions to their family. I promise you won't want to miss it. But first, we'll bring in our Sunday
Listen,
crew
concern for the United States
now
was
that those
genuine
automatic
from
spending cuts have
the Boy
kicked in.
Scout.
And to give us their reaction to
Just
Mitt
real
Romney's
bad
return,
at second
public
guessing
watch.
Obama.
Searching for a bank designed for investors like you? Schwab Bank was built with all the value and convenience investors want. Like no ATM fees worldwide, and no nuisance fees. Plus, deposit checks with mobile deposit. And manage your cash and investments
I
with
take it
Schwab's
for
mobile
granted
app.
that Obama's concerned
No wonder
about the
Schwab
United
Bank has grown to
States.
over 70 billion in assets. So if you're looking for a bank that's in your corner, not just on the corner, call, click, or visit to start banking with Schwab Bank today.
Allen Brothers Magic.
Watch this.
Alakazam!
Staples has always made getting office supplies easy.
Another laptop?
Don't ask.
Disappear. Abracadabra. Alakazam!
And now we're making it easier to get everything for your business.
And for my greatest trick, get up!
Because whatever you need, we'll have it or find it and get it to you fast. Staples, that was easy.
Fox tomorrow. It's proof against Bones to catch a killer.
You don't seem like an FBI agent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All new Bones. Then the most dangerous man in the country has a new surprise.
Stop the transfer, check the trunk.
The following all new. It all starts tomorrow at 8/7 Central on Fox.
I had to sit in the living room with that mother and listen to her sob, telling about her son and how he'll never see Christmas again. She'll never spend another Halloween with him again. And that is just heartbreaking to hear. But I think, you know, as she was able to take that, so the point of her story was she wanted to change the lights at that intersection. And she was able to. I was able to help her do that. And there was so much power in that. And for her, there was so much healing in that.
Caroline,
Yeah.
have you ever seen it empty like this in a bullpen area?
I
You know why?
don't even know what to think about
It's
this.
marked hugeness going on right now, folks. And what I mean by that is all our salespeople are with customers right now. Don't hesitate. Get the number right there. 242-7000. That's right. Call us right now at 242-7000. It's a madhouse here. The $1 million giveaway has got everybody's attention, and it's going to be huge. Yeah.
The Journal Broadcast Group is an equal opportunity employer and is dedicated to providing broad outreach regarding job vacancies at our stations. We seek the help of local organizations in referring qualified applicants to our station. Organizations who wish to receive our vacancy information should contact our Corporate Human Resources Department by calling 239-574-3636.
It's a story that most people around here know, old yet ever-changing, ever-growing. It's a story about hard work and the Galloway family's dedication to serving their community for over 85 years. It's about offering the best vehicles on the American road, yesterday, today, and well into tomorrow. And it's about offering you the best car buying experience in Southwest Florida and beyond. After all, our story is your story. Visit Sam Galloway Ford today, 1800 Boy Scout Drive, Fort Myers.
Fox 4 News at 10. Your #1 choice for 10 o'clock news.
I see this as this huge opportunity, and it's being squandered by politics, by people who are more interested in a political victory than they are in doing what's right for the country. And it's very frustrating. I have to tell you, the hardest thing about losing is watching this critical moment, this golden moment, just slip away with politics.
Mitt Romney talking about what he sees as the real chance for a grand bargain on our fiscal problems. In his frustration, he's not in power to make the deal. And it's time now for our Sunday group. Bill Kristol of the Weekly Standard, Kirsten Powers from the Daily Beast website, former Republican Senator and new Fox News contributor Scott Brown, excuse me, you threw that, he was actually coughing, and Charles Lane of the Washington Post. Bill, I think it's fair to say you were not a big fan of Romney during the campaign. What do you make of his return to the public stage? And he's going to be speaking in a little over a week after next, to CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. How much attention do you expect Republicans to pay to him?
Well, let's see what he says in his speech, whether he tries to lay out a forward-looking reform agenda for the party. I thought watching your interview with him, I was reminded of his decency and that he's an impressive man, and I'm proud to have voted for him. And I think he would have been a better president than Barack Obama is going to be in his second term. But I've also got to say, I had this sort of flashback to, I remember an interview I saw, I must have been in grad school in 77 or 78, with Gerald Ford, who had lost the presidency to Jimmy Carter. I had voted for Gerald Ford, one of many losing candidates I voted for. I thought he would have been much better than Jimmy Carter. He would have been. But I also remember watching the interview as, in grad school and thinking, that's not the future of the Republican Party. And I kind of had, I must say, with all due respect to Governor Romney, I sort of had that feeling watching him today, too.
Kirsten, the governor says, and we just heard that clip, that President Obama had a golden moment to make a deal. And I think he's going back to the fiscal cliff when all of the taxes were in play, and then, of course, with the sequester. A golden moment to make a deal to solve our problems on spending and taxes and entitlements. And he says he wasted it on politics, on scoring points against the Republicans. One, does he have a point? And two, with the confluence of him talking now, just as Washington has never looked worse, do you think some voters may be looking at this interview today and saying, maybe he could handle it better?
Yes, definitely his critique, I think, of what's going on in Washington was on point, and I think, he and his wife are obviously incredibly classy people. I think they came off very well in this interview. It's just always easier from the outside of Washington to sort of point fingers and say, I would handle it differently. He left out of his critique the Republicans. There are two parties in this problem, and the president, I think he is right, could stand to be more of a leader in this situation, but the Republicans also could stand to make some sort of deal with the president on revenues when they've already said in the past that they were perfectly fine with closing these loopholes, and now suddenly they can't close the loopholes. So I think both parties are to blame, and that's the part I think when he's speaking at CPAC, if he wants to really be impactful, he needs to address both sides, not just the president.
Senator Brown.
Well, sequestration, revenues are never part of sequestration. With all due respect, I was there, I voted for it. And it was told to us that, listen, we're going to make this draconian deal that no one is going to want to go forward. And ultimately, we're going to get a select committee, we're going to do our job, and don't worry, we'll take care of it. And then they did. So revenues are never part of it. It was strictly, obviously, finding the appropriate cuts. And the problem is that there's plenty of blame to go around.
But in terms of Romney's critique,
spot on. There's no reason that they should not have been here during the vacation up at Camp David in a room working things out. When the select committee failed, they should have had another one and another one and another one. That's the problem. They don't talk up there. There is a complete lack of attention to detail, putting the country first versus their party and political interests first.
But what about Romney's? He says it's because he was more interested in scoring political points against the Republicans. I think the White House would say, look, we tried to do the backroom deals. It never worked. First of all, we couldn't make the deal with Boehner. Secondly, if we did make the deal with Boehner, he couldn't deliver.
I have to disagree with you. Listen, I was there. I voted for it. It was told to us that they would we already did the $1.2 trillion. The president has been out campaigning for the last 2 or 3 weeks hammering. He didn't ask them to come to his office until the day the sequestration was going to come into effect. That's not negotiating. That's not coming together. That's not putting the country first. That's putting politics first. And that's
it's not putting politics first.
One of the things that was struck by in the interview is that Romney continues to talk about the president giving things to people.
He
Like
did not put
Obamacare.
politics first.
And
he put something else first.
Voters, but I didn't do
That's
so well
the
among
reason
minority
why
voters. And I had
there's
to
a
listen to an
sequester.
interview. Isn't that what got him into trouble?
It wasn't his primary concern.
Yes, but on the other hand, there's some truth to it. If he had performed as well as his father, George Romney, did among minority voters, he'd probably be president of the United States right now. Like the others on the panel, though, I have to say I was struck by the fact that after a campaign is over,
You think his
people
primary
brutalize
concern
each
is
other
politics,
and
and it
have
isn't.
absorbed major shocks
Politics.
and so forth and so on. Candidates always look better when you get to sit down in a more relaxed environment. And you do see that Mitt Romney is a person with a lot of ability and a lot of energy who's still got a lot to contribute. And, you know, his hometown of Detroit right now has just been put into state receivership, or it's about to be. I wonder if there isn't a role for him in the restructuring of Detroit. He'd be the perfect person to do it. He's got the expertise, he's a hometown guy, and he's kind of a political free agent at this point. That's the kind of thing that he could, I think, contribute in the future, because I kind of agree with Bill, his career as kind of a national Republican figure is pretty much over.
Bill, I want to pick up on this issue of immigration because I asked him about it repeatedly. A lot of people think it was one of the keys to his
So
loss.
what would be his primary
He lost
concern?
it among Hispanic voters.
I would have to
71%,
say his primary concern is more
27%. He attributes it
economics.
overwhelmingly to Obamacare and the fact that that was so attractive to lower income voters, especially according to their polls, Hispanics. You think that's right?
I don't, but this was the line the campaign took, and they claimed their polls and focus groups showed it. The lower income Hispanics were not put off.
Money!
Governor Romney said during the primaries about self-deportation and his attacks on Gingrich and Perry for being more moderate on immigration, but that they liked the promise of Obamacare, and that even though the national polls showed Obamacare was unpopular among the majority of the public, that this helped him with lower income voters and especially Hispanics. I personally think it's a bit of an excuse to explain away the damage he did to himself with what he said about immigration in the fall, and also on Obamacare.
Ricky34JevaGist.com. So if his primary concern is not a political one, what is his concern?
And
that would be an economic system. Instead of a political system, he's concerned over an economic system.
So it gets back to the lack of a positive report agenda, I think.
Ricky34JevaGist.com. Don't let him collect the money.
4 months in, dealing with their defeat. I think it's fair to say, at least in public sector, at least on camera, Governor Romney's in a better place than Mrs. Romney. You've just been through your own defeat, running for the Senate in November. Does that look familiar to you?
Very familiar. I think the candidate we're used to getting kind of the crap kicked out of us to speak very frankly, and as a result, we have a thicker skin. My wife is obviously still in the she's better. I'm disappointed and frustrated, but life goes on. I agree with Mr. Romney. Life goes on, and he has a bright future, whether it's as a
Pick an economic system.
If somebody wants his help, I'm sure he'd be willing to give it to him.
Would it be anarchy?
Want to offer many businesses.
Would it be capitalism?
Are second to none.
Would it be communism?
We have to take a break here, but when we come back,
would it be socialism?
So painful, it will never be triggered. What happens now?
Would it be totalitarianism?
Got a phone call. About 4 o'clock.
Would he want to totally control everything?
My response was, is he alive?
I just kept thinking, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. It's not supposed to happen.
All across America, family members are becoming caregivers to brave warriors returning home.
Now we might know the motivation for President Obama.
Aunts, brothers, we have to make sure they're taken care of.
He's motivated to totally control everything.
You'll help provide critical need programs and services that will build lives.
That is not a political concern. That is an economic concern.
They reached out to me first. They reached out to my son, and they never forgot about us.
Ricky34JevaGist.com. Don't let him collect the money.
Our heroes are returning home, and the war may slip from the headlines, but the ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come.
please support these guys. They fought for this country and they come back hurt. Please support Wounded Warrior Project.
Call or go online with your gift right now.
Check out FoxNewsSunday.com for behind-the-scenes features, Ammo Plus, and our special Monday preview of the week ahead. You can find it at FoxNewsSunday.com, and be sure to let us know what you think. Stay tuned for more from our panel.
After a historic Daytona 500 thriller, NASCAR thunders into Phoenix. Today, only on Fox.
I think we have an opportunity when we're in television. We have a gift, a privilege that's been given to us to get information out to as many people as possible. And I go into my job every day treating it like that. Like, this is an honor for me, this is a responsibility, and we have to live up to it.
For answers to questions about medical malpractice, visit forthepeople.com or call 1-800-MORGAN-LAW. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Hi, welcome to Toyota's #1 for everyone sales event. I'm Jan.
Now that the kids are gone, we're looking for something more fuel efficient.
We have cars with great MPG, like the Prius. That can save you money.
You can redo their bedroom. Maybe a sewing room or a guest bedroom for my mom.
I'd love a sewing room. For me and my friends.
Right now, lease the all-new 2013 Toyota RAV4 for only $259 a month. That's $259 a month on a new Toyota RAV4. Toyota, let's go places.
This is not going to be a apocalypse, I think, as some people have said. It's just dumb, and it's going to hurt.
This discussion about revenue, in my view, is over. It's about taking on the spending problem here in Washington.
Well, it's Groundhog Day here in Washington as President Obama and Speaker Boehner dig in their heels again about how to resolve the conflict over those $85 billion in automatic spending cuts, and we're back now with the panel. The next step in all of this bill is that the House is expected to pass a bill this week that will keep funding the government at these new sequestration levels, minus the $85 billion cuts, to keep funding it through September to avoid the government shutdown, which we would get in March. And the president has indicated this week that if that kind of a bill comes to him, he's going to sign it. Question, how's the White House cried uncle on sequestration?
Well, yeah, maybe to some degree, if you think that sequestration was their idea. And the Republicans have convinced themselves, some of the Republicans on the Hill,
I know, but they've been fighting it for the last few months.
Well, they have, but to be fair, I hate to even be fair to President Obama, one reason he's fighting it is that the cuts in defense are just too deep, and it's going to be terrible over the next 5 months.
We're going to get to the defense in a second, though.
Well, but I'm saying, so I don't think, I mean, yes, it could be a tactical victory for Republicans over the next 3 to 4 months, but then they need to look in the mirror and say that they're funding defense at totally inadequate levels for the rest of this year.
Kirsten, do you think that they're crying uncle on two questions, really, that the White House is crying uncle on sequestration with the president saying, yeah, I'm willing to sign a bill with these sequestration levels so we don't have a fight about a government shutdown. And secondly, part of the bill that the House is talking about putting in is to give more flexibility to the Pentagon so that the leaders there can say, well, this program shouldn't be cut and this program can be cut even more. The White House says that they won't accept that. They don't want flexibility. And you just heard Mitt Romney say, why on earth would a president not want flexibility to make the cuts smarter? The cuts he says are dumb.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, both sides have said this is dumb, and yet it's still happening. And the best case scenario in a bad situation would be to give the Defense Department and actually other agencies more latitude in how they do these cuts. And so why the president wouldn't do that, I don't know. I mean, I think...
Well, we know, because supposedly they say that we want to show how painful they are. We don't want it to be...
That's disturbing. I find that very disturbing, actually. I mean, this is, you know, the CBO has projected this could lose 700,000 jobs. And so for them to play these games over politics, trying to make the Republicans look bad, I don't think is acceptable. I'm not saying the Republicans don't play a role in this, but the White House, and I also don't know how this benefits Obama in the long run, because the CBO also is basically saying it's going to affect the unemployment rate. It's going to be a drag on the economy. So is Obama playing with the economy and playing with people's jobs? to make the Republicans look bad? I mean, this is not how you're supposed to lead.
Senator Brown, I want you to weigh in on all of this, but also you have a special perspective because you're a colonel in the Army National Guard and you spent much of the last 5 weeks inside the Pentagon. And the question I have for you is off-camera. Does the military think that they can live with these cuts, or that it's really going to hurt national defense?
It's a no-brainer. It's going to obviously hurt. You can't cut $500 billion, which we've already done, and then expect to cut another $500 billion. They need
over 10 years.
Yes, that's correct. They need the transfer authority, and there's no reason in the world. I think you've hit it on the head. It is about politics. It's about making the Republicans look bad in the public's eye. The president should have the ability to delegate that authority to the Secretary Hagel and or any of the DoD chiefs to do their jobs. They should also, Harry Reid should also delegate the authority to his various committee chairs to say, listen, we need to come up with $1.2 trillion over 10 years.
Yeah, but he signed
do your jobs. You're responsible to come up with X. There's nothing like that. There's no delegation. There's no transfer authority. It's all about politics. It's very, very frustrating, and the American people deserve
Now,
better.
with the transfer authority, could the Pentagon live with these cuts?
Well, obviously, I'm not in charge. It really depends on what the mission is. I think General Dempsey hit it. Tell me the mission.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Well, what is the mission? He hit it right on the head. If you're going to have us be in 3 or 4 conflicts around the world and you're going to cut another $500 billion, no, they more than likely can't do it. But if you tell us what the mission is, give us the transfer authority, we can make it work in the short term. But then what do we do next year? We're going to be in the same situation next year. And once again, our men and women who are serving deserve better. The American people deserve better. It's time for leadership, and the president, it's a dumb idea. It's his idea. You're right, it's his idea. And we were told that, in fact, hey, it'll never happen. Remember in the election, sequestration is never going to happen. Well, it happened. So what do we do now? We're going to continue to throw bombs at each other, or are we going to actually get together and solve the problems? Go up to Camp David, grab some pizza and beers, and let's figure it out.
Sounds like a good time. Chuck, your thoughts about sequestration going forward?
Well, you know, you asked, had the president cried uncle? Another question is, has he been crying wolf? In the sense that he painted for a while this very, very dire picture of the impact. And thanks to some reporting in our paper and others, he's been, I think, forced to step back from just how...
I loved him saying, well, you know, it's not going to be the apocalypse, as some people say. Some people, he's had Ray LaHood, he's had Arnie Duncan, he's had all of his cabinet secretaries, Janet Napolitano, saying it will be an apocalypse.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the way this has played out, it's been, I think they've gotten a little surprised at the fact that there was some pushback in the media and an effective pushback from Republicans about, look, don't overdo how bad this is going to be, number one. And number two, you are president. Maybe you can do something to mitigate it. And so that just tells me that there's still a lot of surprises left to go in terms of how sequestration plays out. People treat it as sort of this one-off event. Okay, sequestration happens and then we know the results. Not so fast. There's 6 months of process ahead of us. All kinds of little details, all kinds of little things that are going to happen. And furthermore, as sequestration goes forward, and to the extent it dominates the news, it is going to detract from the other things he had in mind, like gun control and immigration. So the politics on this are, I think, turning out to be a lot more blurry.
The other things he had in mind
may have hoped.
Well, let's talk about that, Bill, because in his news conference on Friday, the president was said, you know, look, I don't want this to paralyze us in Washington, and we have a lot of other things to talk about: gun control, immigration reform, raising the minimum wage. Can he go on 2 tracks, or is this so going to poison and so paralyze Washington that it's going to hurt the rest of his agenda?
Well, he can try. And look, I'd be happy if Republicans came out of this ahead, but I would say the evidence now is murky. I think Obama was a little overconfident. On the other hand, last week, the Violence Against Women Act, which had been passed by the Senate, the House brought up its version. It was defeated on the floor of the House. There were Republican defections, and then 80 Republicans joined almost all the Democrats to pass Democratic legislation in the House. If you're Barack Obama, all the media can say, ooh, Washington Post being very tough, ooh, not enough time for this. He just got one of his pieces of legislation through the House, and once again, divided House Republicans. Speaker Boehner couldn't hold a majority on final passage. The Republicans provided enough votes to the Democrats to pass Democratic legislation, and he's sitting there thinking, I can do this on legislation after legislation. He's weakening House Republicans quite a lot, and if that's what he wants to do.
Well, let me ask you about that, Kirsten, because there's a story in the Washington Post today, I think it's the lead story, which basically says that's Obama's game. He's less concerned about making deals now than he is in positioning Republicans so they lose the 2014 midterm.
Yeah, you know, it's starting to look that way. This is an accusation Republicans have been making for a while, and I was a little skeptical about it, but it's starting to look like that's his highest priority, and I'm much more concerned about the policy aspects of it than the political aspects. I think that it doesn't have to be the apocalypse for the sequestration to be bad. It is bad. It's bad for all sorts of different reasons, and it should be avoided. And so the president really should not be doing that. If that's his game, it's a bad game.
And a little over 30 seconds, Sonny, we'll see how you play the panel game. What do you think about this idea that he's more concerned about the midterm election than he is about the next 2 years?
Well, listen, I'm not sure about that, but I know when you see a good piece of legislation, if it makes sense, you vote for it. That's what I did at 50-50 with each side. That's a problem with Washington. They put their party and political interests first, not our country, and it's time to do so.
So do you think that he can move forward on gun control? Not just you, but I'm talking about the whole...
Not until we deal with the economic issues. He wants to put those other issues up to avoid talking about the things that really matter. Jobs, our debt, our deficit, taxes. We need to get a handle on those right away.
All right. Thank you. You did that very well. You're invited back. See you next week. Don't forget to check out Panel Plus, where our group picks right up with the discussion on our website, foxnewssunday.com, and we'll post the video before noon Eastern Time. And make sure to follow us on Twitter, @FoxNewsSunday. Up next, we meet the newest members of the Romney clan.
Been out there most of my life. You name it, I've hooked it. But there's one that's always eluded me. I thought I had it in the blizzard of '93. Never even came close. Sometimes I actually think it's mocking me. What?
When I first came to this country, I couldn't speak any English. But America's the only place where a little boy who couldn't speak English can grow up to be a CEO and U.S. Secretary of Commerce. Sadly, we're losing that American dream to a broken system. Washington must pass immigration reform that grows the economy and respects the rule of law, so others like me can help renew the American dream. Be part of the solution. Join the Hispanic Leadership Network.
How could switchgrass in Argentina change engineering in Dubai, aluminum production in South Africa, and the aerospace industry in the U.S.? At T. Rowe Price, we understand the connections of a complex global economy. It's just one reason over 75% of our mutual funds beat their 10-year Lipper average. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. Request a prospectus or summary prospectus with investment information, risks, fees, and expenses to read and consider carefully before investing.
As we've said, today's interview marks a return to the national stage for the Romneys. But it was really a coming out for two other members of the family who were born on Valentine's Day.
These are the latest additions to the Romney clan. These are number 19 and number 20, although their real names
I was going to say.
Eleanor, this is Eleanor over here, and this is Winston. Do you want to pick one up?
I'm
Who are you going to get? You're going to get
Here I go.
You're going to get Win?
I do well with boys.
There you go.
Exactly right. And I will pick up this little sweetheart. Come here, Eleanor. Come here, Ellie. Look at her. Isn't she a beautiful little girl? Look at
Is
this.
it true that your son and daughter-in-law Mary didn't tell you that it was twins?
Now, how do you keep that a secret? They obviously knew they were having twins.
Right.
And I think they decided early on, that they didn't want to, they were worried something might happen to one of them, so they didn't tell anybody. And then they thought, wouldn't this be fun to just keep it a secret? And so the night we got called, I said, "Oh, Craig, what'd you have?" And he goes, "Well, we had a boy." I'm like, "Oh, darn, another boy." And then he goes, "And a girl." And I just started screaming. I'm like,
she was screaming.
I was just screaming.
I was just stunned. We were both in bed. The call came at 6 a.m. in the morning, and we were like, this is just too amazing.
What a thrill. This is the joy part.
Governor, you've had some ups and downs in the last year. What does this mean to you?
This means everything. There's nothing more spectacular than seeing new life come into your family, and to have these two arrive was it just filled our hearts with joy. So you can imagine, so much fun. Look at this little guy.
And some years from now, the Romneys will tell Ellie and Wynn about the great adventure their grandparents had way back in 2012. We'll have much more of our interview with Mitt and Ann Romney tomorrow on Fox News Channel, starting with America's Newsroom. He talks about how he would handle the fiscal deadlock if he were in the White House. And it's very different from President Obama's approach. And that's it for today. Have a great week. And we'll see you next Fox News Sunday.
Fox News Sunday is a presentation of Fox News.
Training is about more than muscle. It's about inner strength. So I push myself. That's why I serve in the United States Coast Guard. I train with the best. A team that shares my drive and commitment. We collect intelligence, guard our shores against drug smugglers, and keep our waterways safe. Because our nation expects more.
If you expect more, maybe you were born ready. Find out at GoCoastGuard.com.
Thanks, Southwest Florida, for voting Patrick Nolan and Emily Disco your favorite local anchor team.
It's a story that most people around here know, old yet ever-changing.